Hi, everyone. I seem to know almost everyone here. If you don't know me, I'm Miriam Simon, and welcome. And thank you, Shani, for opening your home to this event. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening and being a part of this community of women who are taking care of their families and their parents. Tonight's event is sponsored by a grant from our state senators, Eleanor Myrie, through Operation Survival from National Committee for Furtherance of Jewish Education. And when we have a group of Nashim Tzidkaniyos together, it's an appropriate time to say the Rebbe's kapitel. And the Rebbe was an example to us of how to have Kibud aim, visiting his mother every day while being a Rebbe and a world leader. And he found the time every day to visit his mother. Kapitel Kuf Chafdalad, we could just all say it together. Shir Hamailais LaDavid Lule Adonai Shahaya Lano Yomar Na Yisrael Lule Adonai Shahaya Lano Bukum Aleinu Adam Azai Chaim Belaunu Becharas Apam Banu Azai Hamaim Shetafunu Nachla Avar Al Nafshenu Azai Avar Al Nafshenu Hamaim Hazaidanim Baruch Adonai Shalai Nisananu Teref Lishinayim Navshenu Ketipar Nimlata Mipach Yakshim Hapach Nishbar Va'anachnu Nimlatnu Ezreinu B'Shem Adonai Oiseh Shamayim V'Aretz. And it's also a good time to say Kapitel Kuf Chaf Aleph, the safety of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael and the soldiers who are fighting to keep us safe, and of course the return of the hostages immediately now with Mashiach Tzidkenu. Shir Lamailais Esa Einai El Heharim Ma'ayin Yavei Ezri Me'im Adonai Oiseh Shamayim V'Aretz Al Yitein Lamoit Raglecha Al Yanum Shomrecha Hinei Lo Yanum V'Lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yiminecha Yomam Hashemesh Lo Yakeka V'Yareach Balayla Adonai Yishmarcha Mikol Ra Yishmar Es Nafshecha Adonai Yishmar Tzeitzcha Uvayacha Me'etah V'Ad Olam. So honoring and respecting our parents when we're young is pretty easy. Don't sit in their chair and speak respectfully to them. And as we get older and the dynamics of our relationship changes with our parents, we begin to realize that keeping this mitzvah is actually quite complex and that we need to get guidance halachically, practically, emotionally, so that we can keep this mitzvah properly and happily. On your chair is a card that has a bunch of resources on it, and I really strongly suggest everyone take this home because you never know when you're going to need what support you might need for your parents. And if you go on these resources, there's like more resources on a lot of these websites. Anyway, yeah, so please take it home. Also, there's a number on here, my number. So if you want to be part of a broadcast, to be part of a support group, we're going to be having support groups about once a month, the week of Rosh Chodesh usually. And I'm just going to send out a broadcast just saying the details of where and when it is. And this month is going to be by Mrs. Chavi Oltein, the week of Rosh Chodesh ER. Anyway, we are very lucky tonight to have with us women, some who are still the primary caregivers of their parents and some who were and have done this with grace and happily. And they're going to touch on a few topics about the challenges of how they dealt with or how they are dealing with keeping this mitzvah in the best way possible. And for more advice and support, I really encourage you to join our monthly support groups that we're going to be having here in Crown Heights. You don't need to come every month. You'll come whenever you feel you just need some extra advice or emotional support. And Shaina is going to be sharing this, is going to be,
Okay, so
thank you.
So my name is Shaina Katz, and I had the zechus to take care of my father for 4.5 years. At that time when he moved into me, I had K'nai Nahar of 10 children. I just started marrying off children. My youngest was 2.5. And it was the best thing in chinuch-wise for my kids, me, my husband, and my kids. I'm the only daughter. So I was the sole person who took care of him with Hashem's help. And he had a very good Rav who also helped us through what I had to go through with him. And it's, for my kids, for my family, it was such good. It was good. It was hard, but it was good. And I feel very, very blessed. Are you guys doing intros now? Yeah, okay. So it's Seema Goldstein.
I'm Seema Goldstein, and my mother lives with me at the moment. And she has, I'm trying to think how many years. It was from COVID. But when my father passed away 10 years ago, I took it upon myself to visit my mother in Massachusetts every other week for 4 days. And every time I would leave, she said, "Tell your husband thank you." So I would go there to help her with paperwork, and when a spouse passes away, the amount of paperwork is unreal. I'm sure most of us have gone through with that for our parents. And then I knew once COVID came that my sister from Massachusetts was going to ask me to take over. So I had sort of prepared the room for her. I had prepared Medicaid for her. I had prepared a trust for her. I had prepared a lot of the legalities before she even lived in New York, because I knew it was in the cards. And sure enough, when COVID came, she couldn't get help. At that time, my mother only slept by my sister. She was alone, well, she had an aide in the house the whole day to keep her company. My sister worked. And then my sister would pick her up and they'd have dinner together with her husband and the kids who were there. So when COVID came and she couldn't get the help, I brought her to New York. At that time, she was different than she is today. She has dementia. She has terrible, terrible crippling arthritis. She cannot feed herself because she can't open her hands. So it's a challenge, but we get through it. Every day is a different adventure, an adventure that I'm happy to go along with her. It's a challenging mitzvah by far, but we have to know how to embrace it. If we embrace it the right way, the challenge is on our side. And if you don't embrace it, it becomes overpowering. So I think that I've learned from this that you just have to take this mitzvah by the hand and say, it's mine. And once you say it's yours and you've made it in your heart and in your mind that it's yours, then you work it out. And you work it out every day. Every day is a little different. There's no 2 days that are the same. And you just embrace it that way. I also have a wonderful support group of 5 siblings in the neighborhood. And when I put something on the blog, I get responses immediately. So that is just something wonderful that has happened by osmosis.
Hi, I'm Aliza Scheinfeld, and I consider it a great privilege to be caring for my mother and to help with my father's care until he passed away 6 years ago. My parents were both great examples of how to give Kibud in the way that they cared for their parents. My father's mother lived with my parents for the last few years of her life, and my mother took care of her as if it was her own mother. There was no question. It was whatever we had to do. She just did it with a smile. And my mother's parents, although they lived out of town, my mother was constantly back and forth visiting them and helping them. And when they would come to visit, she gave them the best care ever. So we had a very good living example of how to fulfill this mitzvah. And now I just feel like it's my obligation, and I do it with love, and it's a great honor to give back to them after everything that they did for us. And wouldn't be any other way. It just is. And like Seema said, we accept it, and it's something that we do with love. It makes it much easier.
Hi, I'm Gitty Bronstein. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Crown Heights. I have a private practice, and I took care of my father for 8 months before he passed away. He had been living in Boston, and after my mother passed away, he actually remarried 2 years later. So when he got sick, he had the presence of mind that he knew he needed to live with one of his children so as not to have his children come to Boston, because he saw what happened with my mother, where every week another child came for a year. So he decided, we all wanted him to come live with us, obviously. He chose that, I think he knew that a daughter would probably be a good choice. And he moved into my house with his second wife. She used to joke that it was the best thing. She can come and go when she wants, and there was always good food to eat. She says, this is the best old age home. I can come and go when I want, and there's always good food. So he moved into my house. I actually was renting a condo at the time. We were doing construction. So we moved my children into my neighbor's basement, which we rented, and he moved into my children's room, which was the basement at the time. So it took a lot of maneuvering and juggling to make the pieces work. I actually took a leave of absence from work for 6 months to just help him transition. You have to understand, we moved his life, physically, emotionally, getting him set up with all his medical care here in New York, just moving everything from Boston to here. So I can definitely say that was a very challenging time in my life. But looking back, I can also say that it was the greatest privilege, and I'm so happy that I did it because my children have gained tremendously, and we'll get to that afterwards. But my thrust tonight will be self-care while caring for a parent. We'll turn it back to Shaina.
Okay. So we're going to start with some questions, which our panel will answer. Dividing care with siblings. Aliza, do you want to share?
Yes, so it's very important that responsibilities get shared when it's possible. Not all the siblings live local. Not all the siblings are able. Not all the siblings have the patience. Not all the siblings have the capability. So in our family, it just kind of happened. It started, I could say the care began when my father was in his early stages of his illness. He had Alzheimer's, and things had to be transferred out of his name. And I'll never forget the day that he realized that the house was not in his name, and he was just not himself. If anyone's familiar with Alzheimer's, it's a terrible thing, and they're not themselves anymore. Do you know I don't own my house? Do you know I don't own my house? And that was a day in itself. But financial matters, my brother-in-law had already done this for his parents. So my brother-in-law and my sister kind of took over the financials only because they were already familiar with it. And for me, I'm not so smart, so I was taking care of a lot of the day-to-day and meals and shopping and cooking and making sure Shabbos was covered, that my mother always had company for Shabbos because my father didn't know if it was Shabbos or Christmas. And then when he became bedbound, it was like just being alone in the house. So there was always a Shabbos meal, there was always company. And I don't want to use the word, it fell on me. I took that over, and I was perfectly happy to do it. My children live in New York. My sister's children do not live in New York. So I was always able to make sure that if I wasn't there, a child was there, somebody was there. And it just kind of happened very easily like that. I have another sister who does not live in the neighborhood, and it's not in her skill set to take over these things. So it's important to realize not to have expectations where they can't be met. So not to be frustrated with someone who doesn't have a car, or doesn't have the patience, or doesn't have the stamina, or doesn't have the understanding. You do what you can do, and try not to be upset at the ones who can't, because you don't want to resent any of your siblings, and you don't want to resent your parent, and you don't want to have resentment in yourself, because then it's all consuming and you're not able to do what you have to do. So in our family, we were blessed, and we were able to divide it easily, and we just do what we do, and we don't get bothered and upset about it. And for the most part, I think that worked out very well for our family.
Okay, very good. Let's talk a little bit about self-care. Besides dividing the care, let's hear about self-care, Gitty.
Okay, so caregiving is never easy, not for the caregiver and not for the one receiving the care. It requires a lot of sacrifices and adjustments for everyone. Yet at the same time, when you care for an older parent, it comes with tremendous rewards. It teaches one Kibud of aim to the utmost, and a person feels needed and useful. At the same time, sometimes the demands of caring for a parent can be so overwhelming that it could strain even the most resilient person. That's why it's so important to know and to be aware of taking care of yourself and making sure that you are capable of giving to others. So I want to just mention a few signs of caregiver stress. What does it mean? What does it look like when the caregiver is under stress? It could look different for everybody, but some of the most typical signs are if a person is feeling very exhausted all the time, overwhelmed, anxious, if a person becomes easily angered or impatient, if you feel lonely or disconnected from those that you love, if you have trouble sleeping or you don't get enough sleep, if you feel sad, hopeless at times, or you lose interest in things that you used to enjoy doing, if you get frequent headaches or other physical ailments, if you're not finding time to exercise or prepare healthy food for yourself. So the key is don't wait until you're completely overwhelmed. Learn what your own warning signs are and deal with it and figure out steps to minimize that stress before it gets to a point where you're completely burnt out. So I'm going to mention a few ideas for self-care. And again, everybody knows what speaks to them. But first of all, being active, I would say, is number one, because when a person is active, it physically raises the level of serotonin in the brain. So for some people, that means running, biking, walking, dancing, doing yoga, whatever it is that speaks to you, but do some sort of exercise. Second of all, eating well. Be conscientious of what you eat. Make sure you're eating a healthy, balanced diet. Make sure you're drinking enough. Prioritize your sleep, 7 to 9 hours, and I know it's hard, but when you develop a healthy and a relaxing bedtime routine, it's easier to fall asleep. Try and go to sleep the same time and wake up the same time every night. Try and reduce stress. And again, if you can take one or two of these examples home with you, then that's good. Try and reduce stress in your life. Some people find doing some sort of meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness, yoga, listening to inspiring podcasts. There's so many ways to just minimize stress. Make the time to relax. That's probably the number one thing that I hear, that people say, I don't have time for myself. Make that time. No one else is going to carve it out except for you. Work on a hobby that you enjoy, whatever it is, painting, needlepoint, listening to an inspiring shir, whatever it is. Keep up with your own health. Don't forego your health and your doctor appointments and well visits because you're taking care of a parent. Reach out for support, whether that support is a trusted friend. I always say everybody needs one person in their life that they can completely let their hair down with and just be vulnerable with. Sometimes that's a relative, not an immediate sibling. Sometimes that's a friend. Sometimes that's a mental health professional. Take a break if you need it. Ask a family member to come take over. I remember when my father lived with me, I used to make it a point, no matter how difficult it was, to every now and then just go away overnight with my husband. I just needed that break, and I recognized I needed that break. Don't wait until you're reaching a breaking point. Most of all, just be kind to yourself. You don't have to always be cheerful and pretend to be cheerful all the time. It's okay to say, I feel sad, I feel overwhelmed, I feel angry, I feel frustrated. Allow yourself to feel. But then ask yourself, what am I going to do with those feelings? How can I channel those feelings in a healthy way? Those are some self-care tips. Shaina.
Can I just add, because I feel like to add to what Aliza was saying about siblings, and to add about the self-care. I take care, Baruch Hashem, of my 95-year-old mother. She lives with us. I have 8 kids, Kanai Nahara. My youngest now is 9. She moved in when he was 2. And I was primary caregiver for my parents when my father was alive. And being the primary caregiver, it became very, very overwhelming. And I went to get some professional help because I was really struggling with having a lot of resentment and anger at siblings for not pitching in and everything. And I just want to share 2 pieces of advice that he gave me that I really took onto, that has really helped me to be able to love my siblings, not have resentment, not judge them, and not be angry. Because like you're saying with the self-care, you can't have self-care if you're busy micromanaging and being the primary caregiver. So the 2 bits of advice that he gave me that I hope will be helpful for everyone is first of all to remember that your siblings, it's also your siblings' parents. So I felt like, I can't go away because my siblings have no idea how to take care of my mother. They don't know what to do. And he said to me, he's like, it doesn't matter. It's their mother. And they'll take care of her however they take care of her. It's not your business. It's their relationship. You need to get away. You need to get yourself a break. and you need to let go and let them do whatever it is they do. And if they mess up or whatever, that's their relationship with their mother, and you need to let go. And that was really, really helpful. And the other thing was, he said, whatever you're doing, do it 100%, because if you're not doing it 100%, that's when the resentment and the anger comes in. And so when you're doing something and you're starting to feel resentment and anger, you need to take a step back, like Gitty's saying, and give yourself that self-care. But you need to take a step back and say, what is it do I need? Do I need maybe my siblings to take over certain parts of my parents' care? Or maybe I need to get hired help? Or maybe I need to change my expectations. And I have to tell you that this advice that he gave me has really gotten me through, and Baruch Hashem, it works, that I don't have to walk around with those feelings. And together with Chassidus and Shar B'Tachon, all of that to make it more practical. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to add
Sure.
also. So I find also many times that I need this break, and I just walk to Botanic Gardens, and all of a sudden I come back, I'm a different person. We are so lucky to have it in our backyard, and that's all you need. You need to take a walk. Many times I hop the subway going to the city for a couple hours, but the Botanic Garden right there, it's right at our doorstep. We should really use it, and it's such a calming effect when you leave there and you come back. You just have a breath of fresh air, especially this time of year, but any time of year. So we have to just take the resources that we have right under our hands and use them.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to discuss finances and healthcare. Seema, can you enlighten us?
So there's so many things that, besides Medicaid, if you get your mother or father on it, but you need a healthcare proxy. You need all the legal documents. You need power of attorney, which is so important. But the healthcare proxy, if Chas v'shalom, you go into a hospital emergency room, they're going to ask you for a healthcare proxy. So you have to have all these things ready. So when you run out, and if you go with Hatzalah, they'll say to a phone, a charger, all the important papers that you need. And Hatzalah is going to wait until you have every single thing before they take you to the hospital. So you have to remember to keep it all in one place. But after you do the legal documents and the healthcare proxy, you need that power of attorney later on for anything financial. If you can get into doing the finances for your parent, that works. My mother was very easy to do it because she couldn't sign any checks anymore because of her arthritis. So she allowed me to sign everything for her, and I signed everything for her. So it worked out.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you explain what a healthcare proxy is?
That you are taking over
It's a document.
the health of the person that's there. It's a document, yes, a legal document. A legal document, right. And then there's also, I've done it, and it's a Medicaid trust. If your parent is over the amount of money that is legal for Medicaid, you could do the trust that's done through, I did it with somebody in Borough Park, and it worked out very well. You get a pool trust that you can pay for a lot of things that your mother uses or your father uses during that month, and you send in all the bills, and they pay all the bills for you. So if the Medicaid, for example, is $500 over what Medicaid allows, that $500 goes straight into a pool trust. And they do everything. You don't have to do a thing. That money goes straight to the trust. They take 10% of the money, and it's worth everything because then you're on Medicaid legally. So there are all these legal loopholes that if you know about it beforehand and you go into it with that knowledge, it makes it easier for you.
I want to say something before you continue, because you mentioned something about having everything together for Hatzalah. Very, very important if your parents are on whatever kind of medication.
Yes, a
it
list.
should be a printed, clear, easy to read list. Not on the phone and not on a sheet somewhere and not in your parents' scribble and gibberish. Oh, I know what it is. On the wall, and when they come in, what medications are they on? Here. And also, when you get to the hospital, to have a copy to give
Also,
them.
if you have their recent EKG is also very important. Like take whenever, that's very important. Yeah, that's important.
I just want to add to that, Hatzala does recommend, make it a very obvious, because if you're not home and you know what the document is, but you're not home at the time that it's needed, it should be ideal, sometimes on the refrigerator, but you may not want it on your refrigerator, but in a very clear place that Hatzala can find it. All the medications and all the paperwork, and make sure you're updating it every time they change the medication.
Very important, yes. Even when you go to your doctor's appointments, every time you go, they say, what are the medications that you're on? They have it there, but they want you to tell it to them every single time.
So if a patient has Medicare, is that not good enough? Is it recommended to get them off it and try to get Medicaid?
Medicare is fine if you have enough health insurance. It's fine. It's fine. Just Medicaid gives you more home aid hours, right? Right, to do that, right. But you have to put everything in a trust before you could do Medicaid, and they look back. That's usually 3 years.
So now about Look Back, I just looked into this. Look Back was canceled in COVID.
Okay.
And until won't be reinstated
So
until the end of
fast.
June. They keep saying they will, but
Right.
until June where it's frozen. So anything that anybody's going to do about this kind of moving
Right.
things around, if you do it before June 30th,
Right.
there will be no Look Back.
Right. Also, since COVID, there's been no home visits. Everything's been on the telephone, so that there has been no home visits for Medicaid.
But it's very timely to do this
this
maneuvering
now.
of stuff before June 30th. It might continue until next
Right.
quarter, but until June 30th, it's frozen.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
I just want to add to what Seema said. It's so important what you said, Seema, regarding the lawyer and the trust and everything. I have a personal friend whose mother actually lost her home, a very valuable home in California, because they never put into a trust. And by the time they woke up, it was too late. So the medical expenses basically ate away at everything. So with a little bit of education, you really could, be wise about it. On the other hand, right now, my mother-in-law is 95, Kanai Nahara, full sound and mind, and she is very independent, and she wants full control of her finances. And so you have to respect that. So she's wise enough to make sure that everything is taken care of legally, but in terms of paying her bills and et cetera, she has full control and still writes her checks. And so you have to know your parent at the same time and give them that autonomy when they need it and they're able to, while still making sure that they're legally protected.
Also, I just want to add quickly. So when I got my father, when the Rav told me it's time to take him because he really wasn't well, my father wouldn't have just come and he'd say, well, I'm a burden, I'm not going to come. I'm good, but he really wasn't okay. And the Rav help him to do that and to do the health proxy. He listened to his Rav and he had Menuchas HaNefesh because it was Das Torah. Sometimes it's hard for parents to get all their stuff in line because they think this is never going to happen to me. And sometimes, that I would say, have that conversation when they're well, what they want. Okay, being active and engaged. Gitty, what would you like to share?
Okay,
For your parent.
I would
Not
say
you.
know your parents and know what speaks to them. I can only say for myself, my father was a brilliant physicist and he was also Ben Torah. So when he was living with me, once he got sick, I would bring in groups of people into my home. I kind of spread the word out and I arranged for him to talk on Torah and science, which was his passion. So we had Chabad on campus brought groups, different shluchim brought groups. So I felt like I was running like an ongoing retreat. You have guests coming, you have food put out, but it made him feel like $1 million. It made him feel useful. He was still able to give. He was still able to teach. This is what he loved doing. So know your parent. Once he wasn't well enough to do that, I hired somebody to come learn Gemara with him every day. He loved learning Gemara. I paid a young man to come and learn Gemara with him every day. He loved being active. I paid somebody else to come do exercise with him every day. So tap into your parents' strengths and passion and find ways to help them stay active and still continue doing what they love doing.
want to add something about that. Thank you to our cousin Raisy Edelman. She helped my mother get Accessoride. So she hasn't been driving for several years already, and we're not always available between my sister and I or any of my children. We can't always take her where she needs to go at the time she wants. So she has Accessoride, and all she needs to do is the day before plan her visit if she wants to go to Borough Park, if she has a doctor's appointment, anywhere she needs to go. It's a very easy thing to do. It's an appointment. You fill out some papers. It's an appointment. I think it's downtown Brooklyn somewhere, and it helps them have a little bit of their own independence, that they don't have to wait for someone to take them somewhere.
So I just want to add to that. I was very fortunate last year to be able to purchase a used van that's wheelchair accessible. My mother's in a wheelchair, and it has changed my life. I put her in the wheelchair, we go to Trader Joe. I put her in the wheelchair, we go to once or twice or 3 times a week to Botanic Garden. I mean, any place I go, I can take her with me. I don't have to worry about taking her out of the wheelchair, into the car, and then lifting her from the car into the wheelchair.
And the handicap placard.
The handicap placard, yeah, I'll speak about that in a minute. But this, if anybody is ever in a pickle and needs to borrow it, please call me. I'll let you take it. But it has just, I'm going to tell you, but the...
How to get a handicap placard? It's not, download the form, you need ID, it's not complicated.
You need a
So that doctors know. You could each have a card, that you have to find out. If you each use your card to take your hearings.
We just have one.
right.
It's for the car. My
Yeah,
mother
it's for the
keeps it in her
car.
purse
It's for the
so
car.
that she can use it in any car that she might be in.
It's just easy.
But you need,
Right, you're taking her somewhere. I don't have to like.
the doctor. You need a doctor.
And then I park and then I come
She
back.
didn't know. You have to have a doctor fill in the forms. Yes.
You mail it away. It
yes.
takes a little while to get it back, but
If any of you are upstate, it's so easy to do upstate. I would tell you to do it upstate, and you'll get it. No, in the village, not even the,
Not the DMV?
no, I did
think
it
it's
in
with
the
the
village.
DMV.
In Monticello, it's in the Village Hall, which is by ShopRite. In front of the ShopRite Mall, yeah, in Monticello. And it's so easy to do it there, very less complicated.
You have to leave upstate to do it? Or
No. Yeah, you can just go, yeah. But it's so worth it, you don't have to do alternate side parking. No, you need they'll give you the form for the doctor's note, yeah. But it works very well, okay.
Getting your children involved. Seema, you want to start?
Getting my children involved. I have a granddaughter that lives with me, so if I have to run out at night, it works out. I have some other grandchildren that I've called when I had an emergency and they've come right over. But I have sisters, so that works out for me with the sisters, I think. So that's it. I just wanted to say one more thing to be remembered. I still take my mother for manicures every 3 weeks. So, and when I was taking I also was a caregiver for my mother-in-law who lived in her own house, but I went over every day with dinner. But I just want to tell you a short story about that. I used to take her also every couple weeks for a manicure. And one time, my sister-in-law came in from out of town. I had 2 sister-in-laws from out of town, and they would flit in and out, like out-of-towners love to do. And she said to me, I'm so excited. I did my mother's nails today. I said, you did? You brought her to the manicure? She said, no, I did it in the house. I said, you missed the point. The point is when she goes to the manicure, they say, oh, Mrs. Goldstein, so nice to see you. And everybody is from Crown Heights and everybody knows you and you know everybody else. I said, it's part of the social well-being. You can't give a manicure in the house. It's not the same. It's not the same. So anyway, and whenever I see people in the manicure salon, I think of her all the time, that's what it is. Yep.
Okay, Aliza, would you like to share?
Yes, I am very blessed that all my married children live in Crown Heights. So there's a slew of children to call if, I'll give you an example, like after after my mother comes home from the hospital, whether it was an emergency or a planned procedure, I work, my sister works, we can't always be there to hang around, so we can count on some of the children to go bring lunch, please go hang out with Bubba for a couple of hours, who can go take out the garbage. Now she has a home attendant for the last couple of months, so she takes care of a lot of these things, but can someone go help her with her computer? One of my sons is tech support and goes over all the time. So all these different little tasks that the children can be involved in, and also to perpetuate the legacy of what we learned and show it to them, and hope that they're continuing the lessons that we taught them. And the same way that
I can vouch for your sons that took those lessons very well. I know her boys, 2 angels who were Hashem put in front of a guy who fell and didn't know where to turn, and literally angels, and stepped up for somebody he was going to visit, somebody he himself who needed to get back home. Her kids, best chinuch ever. Can vouch for it.
Whenever, if anybody says anything, I just tell them I have no credit. I take no credit at all. I was raised by very good people, and I learned something. So, like I said before, it's just all wrapped up in one big package. It's an honor and a privilege. Just spent Pesach with my mother. Basically came into a clean house, and all I had to do was cook, and her home attendant was put to work to cut and peel and cut and peel. I have to say it was one of the most beautiful Pesachs I ever had with her, and it was my honor. I have no words to describe it. So it's a huge, huge mitzvah, and I can't say any more about it because I'll get emotional.
Gitty, what would you like to share?
So I actually called a number of my children, whoever I could reach today, and I said, looking back, this was 15 years ago, what would you say as a child you gained by having my father live with us? And some of their responses were very interesting for me to hear. So I'll share what they said. My oldest son, who actually got engaged during the time that my father was living with us. You can imagine, it was my first child. You can imagine what a hectic time it was. My oldest son said he remembers it made him feel very connected. He said it made him realize that there was something bigger than his immediate surrounding. He said that he looked at it almost as like a continuity, that besides me being his mother, he saw me in the role of a child towards my parent. He said he gained a lot by seeing me in a different role, which was whether it was worrying about my father, caring for my father, and then eventually losing my father. He said it gave him a very mature perspective. Interestingly enough, he said he felt a certain peace when my father was living with us, even though it brought a certain chaos. He was one of the ones that moved next door into my neighbor's basement and gave up his bedroom for my father and his wife. He said that he learned in life what it means to put aside his own comfort for something more important. And that's a lesson. He said you can't teach that, you can't preach that to your children. They just live it. Another son said that he connected to my father in a very unique way. He said my father, he looked at it as my father was, like I mentioned earlier, a professional and a Ben Torah. And all of a sudden, and his life was, like I said, he was a physicist. He developed over 70 patents. He was a very successful professional. And all of a sudden, he got sick, and that no longer mattered. And what my son remembers was all of a sudden, he says, when he realized his time on this earth was limited, what did he spend his time doing? Learning and spending time with his children. Like all of a sudden, he saw how my father just nothing else matters. Your profession, just close that door, spend the rest of your life just doing what's important to him. Another son remembers what an impression it made on him to see both my husband and I turn over our lives to care for my father. And I have to give credit to my husband, who was the most incredible support, having my father live with us. One of my younger daughters, who was only 8 at the time, says she remembers feeling special that my father lived with him. But interestingly enough, my older daughter, who was in 11th grade, says she remembers how stressful it was on her, being the oldest daughter at home. She remembers kind of coming late to school, not doing her schoolwork, and once getting called into the principal's office and got yelled at that she can't continue like this. And she burst out crying, saying, you don't understand. My grandfather's living with us, and I have so much more responsibility. So at that point, I don't remember this, but she tells me, I called the school and I explained, this is what's going on, give her a break. But at the same time, she says she remembers with that responsibility, she said she would never trade that time. She remembers how much she gained because she felt like she got to know my father in a way that she never knew him.
That's beautiful. It's because we have a little more time. I just want to tell you, I took in my father, and it was my husband and my kids. My mother was nifta years ago, so this was my mitzvah. And I said, Zaidi is king. This is Zaidi's chair, that's Zaidi's bathroom, that's Zaidi's room. My kid, I didn't want to have the aide around. He was a great guy, but I didn't want him around when my kids, we took care of him. And we did it, my kids fed off my energy, b'simcha. And they saw he wasn't a burden. And he gave so much also to our family. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, someone asked the question, how do you handle children who resent the sudden change in the family dynamics and environment? Does anyone want to answer that? Okay, Aliza.
So I didn't have my father or my mother living with me. It's their house. So there were times when I was out of the house a lot, especially when a crisis would happen. There were times my father was taken to the hospital emergency, or my mother a hospital emergency. So now all my kids are out except my youngest daughter. And my kids are very, very gracious, because when my husband was still alive, he said, anything for your parents, anything for your parents, anything for your parents. So they understood that when a crisis happens, this is where I'm needed now. And I can't be in 3 places. I never left anyone in a lurch. I never left them starving, hungry, dirty. So everyone has to understand this is the priority now. And sometimes it was a shorter crisis. Sometimes it was a longer crisis. But like I said before, because of the way we were taught and raised,
right, your kids fed off.
They understood this is what we have to do now. I can only speak for myself. Every family dynamic is going to be different. Not everyone is going to step up, and not everyone is able to step up. But everyone has to understand that there's a priority. So like I said, my kids are all out. I'm very flexible, and I can do what I need to do how I want. My daughter's not a baby. When the children were younger, there was always an older one looking after them. So they see that. They see that someone's in the hospital, I have to go. And I think that's the only way to do it.
Anyone else want to share something?
I would say that the question was how to handle children who are resentful. I would say that even if things cannot be changed, especially if it's younger children who really don't understand, take the time to hear them, listen to them, validate their feelings, even if nothing changes. But oftentimes, kids just need to be heard. It's okay for them to express why they feel upset, why they feel angry. Listen to them, validate them. Usually, that's enough.
I'll share something else on that for a second. So, because of our family dynamic, which probably everybody in this room knows what it is, when my mother does go to the hospital, or when my father did go to the hospital after my husband passed away, it was extremely scary for my children, because they didn't know, is this a life-threatening crisis? Is this just a temporary thing? So hospitalizations, Hatzalah, takes on a different kind of meaning with my family. So one of my older children told me, you need to talk to the youngest one who's at home with me. Just give her a little time. So I appreciate that you mentioned that, because that was something that I'm assuming that everybody's okay, but she really needed some time of mine to explain more detail what was going on and make her feel safe.
Seema.
Well, my kids are all out of the house, but I had something this winter where I came in for, my husband had a procedure, and I came in for that. And one of my sisters went to Florida, where I am in the winter, and stayed with my mother. And then we switched. I went back to Florida. In the meantime, my husband had a setback. And my daughters were very upset that I didn't stay longer in New York. So I said, I did listen, and I validated them, and I said they were right. But when I left, he was perfectly fine, and 2 days later, he had a setback. So they did step up to the plate, but you're right, you have to listen to them and listen to what they feel, and there was no way I could get back, and they just stepped up to the plate.
Wow, all different ages and stages.
Right, exactly.
You know, if there's any questions, do we still have time?
I think that's, just from my perspective, that is the point of having the support groups. I think that Miriam is doing a real chesed for the community by organizing it. And on the paper, those of you who missed it earlier, on the top of the paper is the WhatsApp to WhatsApp Miriam to join the broadcast list of knowing when the in-person support groups are happening, because I think that there's a lot of perspectives, a lot of wisdom amongst us that we can really be sharing and learning and venting and laughing again and crying together with each other. But there's also a lot of practical advice, and some people may not want to. You get to know different people that you can actually have other conversations with you if you don't want to bring your topic up in front of the whole group. But there's so much wisdom in there, even amongst just us. So thank you, Mary, for bringing it.
And thank you for your wisdom and your insights. And I think everyone here has gained tonight and has a lot to think about. Thank you. We are lucky to have Naomi Nachman with us. We're all going to have to turn our chairs around. Naomi and I go back to our childhood in Australia. We know each other. And I called Naomi and asked her to come join us tonight because Naomi is very passionate about the mitzvah of Kibud and she's going to be speaking to us a little bit about that. And she's also going to give us some great tips on preparing food for our family and our children.
Hi guys, I'm Naomi Nachman. I'm from Sydney, Australia, but I've been living in America for 33 years. So I say I speak American with an Australian accent. So Aussie, oi, oi, right? Whenever anyone does it, it's like a reflex. We go, oi, oi, oi. Miriam and I know each other since we're like 8 or 9. My dad used to work for her dad in food business, go figure. It's quite an honor to be here. Miriam reached out to me 6 months ago, at least, discussing the idea of something like this. She goes, my parents live in Sydney, Australia, and I have just done 8 trips to Sydney in the last 2 years. Usually 1 trip a year is, a big deal. So this has been 4 a year for the last 2 years. It's not an easy trip, and it's not a cheap trip. But some are on points, some are my parents pay for, and some we pay for. I came here, and my brother lives in Borough Park. I don't know how 2 Sydney kids ended up in, New York. We grew up like Mizrahi B'nai Akiva, but Shem had a plan for us. I ended up in 5,000, and he ended up in Borough Park. We always pushed off the conversation, what's going to be when mum and dad got older? They're older now, and the conversation is very real and all-encompassing all the time. So Miriam said, I'm so impressed with all the trips that you make. Let's put together some sort of event that we can discuss Kibud Avaim, I feel like I'm really the sandwich generation, and I've clocked up without a lot of miles because my grandchildren live in Israel. So I just want to say that I have diamond status on Delta right now. Baruch Hashem for that. Actually, funny story. I left Sydney in February to come back, and I went over to the counter, with all my bags filled with Australian lamb. I'm just saying, the best meat in the world. And I check in, and I've got pretty good status, a diamond status. Usually, everyone always asks, are there any empty seats, upgrades? They're like, chick. Okay, we'll put you in first class. I called up my mum. I'm like, that's never happened before. And it's a very long day flight. It's 14 hours from Sydney to Los Angeles. And I called up my mum like, Mum, I just got put in first class, because she'd come to the airport with me and she was driving back with my aunt. She goes, because you did Kibud over AIM. And I'm like, sometimes Hashem pays you back immediately. Not in Olam Haba, but sometimes you get it in this world too. So that was amazing. Okay, so I really feel like I'm stuck in the middle between taking care of my parents, and my kids in Israel are pretty much okay. They live in Beit Shemesh, so now instead of worrying about the Houthis bombing us and my grandkids sleeping in bomb shelters sometimes, they're now Beit Shemesh fires. So like another bit of a stress, but they're actually in my house right now having dinner. They're going to the airport back to Israel. But I feel like my kids are in a good place. Not all of them. I've got some here and some there. So, the conversation became, now we're turning back to the conversation. My brother and I always thought like it was never going to happen. Then all of a sudden we get these calls, Dad's getting older. And my dad was one of these big firecrackers, big personality, a real doer, like me, like I'm, loud and I move fast and very entrepreneurial. And my dad got slow and much older. In fact, last year it was his 83rd birthday, and his Rav called me up and he said, you think you should come to Sydney? We're going to make your dad a bar mitzvah. I said, what? He's not way past that. He goes, there's an inyan that if you live, David HaMelech lived to 70, and if you live another 13 years, you get a bar mitzvah. And he had an aliyah in shul. I went to Sydney for it. And with that, I really wanted to go. I really wanted to do this, but it was right after Purim. And I am a Pesach caterer. That means putting aside my business for that season, because I did not have the headspace to run a Pesach catering business. My dad was getting older and slower, and my parents really needed me. So I went to Sydney for my father's bar mitzvah. I was going to say my brother's bar mitzvah. He got an aliyah in shul. We threw candies at him. My mother made a kiddush in shul. Then we had a big luncheon back at home. And I decorated everything, and I bought all the paper goods from America, because paper goods in Australia are basically illegal. They're very environmentally friendly here, not so much here.
Bring the garbage back to America.
Yeah. They did, but my mum's really into recycling, so all the cups had to go in this, and all the plastic here, and the paper ones here. It was like they're very good there. We're not so good here. So it was just a time that I really needed to be in. Every time I go with my parents, I deal with the will. Now, my cousin is our family attorney, so a lot of this you heard tonight, the will, the healthcare proxies. My dad thinks he's very independent, but he's not. And the biggest thing that, I don't know if this came up or this comes up to any of you here. I'm assuming you all live in Crown Heights, or your parents mostly live. I know someone's from Boston. Is the real estate vultures. I don't know if this has happened, but the real estate vultures don't stop knocking at my parents' door, trying to sell them a house, trying to have them sell their house. It's Sydney, it's expensive real estate, and they've been swindled. My dad's been swindled from the emails. They think they know what they're doing, but sometimes they don't know, or there's a new scam. I told my mum, somebody sends you an email that says they need money, don't send the money. I know your daughter, they don't know me. Just be parents have to be very aware, even our kids have got to be really aware of what can happen online. So my dad lost $15,000 because someone he did something silly and we didn't, and I had just gone through this with him. Don't do it. But, they're a bit stubborn, but really try to keep that all in line, and also trying to teach my mum how to pay bills. So that's also a big thing. I've got 3 friends who were suddenly widows in their, I would say, early 50s and did not know how to pay a bill. So, just as our parents age, you've got to make sure if mum can take or the dad, whoever, you know what I'm saying, if mum or dad pays the bills, in my house it's me. But just, these are the things that I've personally gone through. And then, of course, there's the freezers. Do your parents have freezers full of food?
Yes.
Okay, full of food. My father's job, once after he retired, was to go to the supermarket. Now he can't go by himself. He has a carer that goes with him once a week. So all the supermarkets in Bondi Junction, if anybody knows Australia, they'll know where that is. And he likes to go to the supermarkets and look for meat on sale. There's no kosher butcher in Sydney anymore. There was one for about 70 years. It changed. They closed up, and then they ended up Coles, the big supermarket there, non-kosher supermarket, has a massive kosher section, and they bring up meat from Melbourne. So, every few days, the new meat comes in and the old meat goes on sale, and my dad is there dumping it all in his wagon and getting meat. So they have so much meat in their freezer. And I'm a little bit worried about their safety, how old it is that they're going to cook it up and get sick. But usually stuff is usually okay, but make sure that they close the freezer doors properly. You want to make sure, these, I don't know if these are things that you've thought about, but I need to worry about these for my parents. And also I know it from my business. I'm always worried about freezers opening and things defrosting. Now, things can defrost and get refrozen and nothing's going to happen, but it's how many times it can happen. They forget, they leave the freezer door open. So you always want to make sure that the freezer doors are closed. And now we're going to do a little bit of food prep because we're going to talk about filling your freezers for your parents and also, food prep and what freezes well, and meals that can be made for the kids and for the grandparents. I don't want this to be me just chatting at you. So if you have any questions, just raise your hands and would love to hear from you guys. So I thought a sheet pan dinner would be a really great way to start. And I want to use clean, simple ingredients that can make really flavorful food. So we're going to talk about different alternatives as well. Okay, good? Okay. So I bought these are old, but amazing. These are baking sheets or cookie sheets. I line them with parchment paper. I line everything with parchment paper. I don't want the food touching the sheets. Okay. Can you see if I leave these here? Okay. So I thought it would be cool to do fish. It is so healthy. It's a nice, clean protein. And there's salmon and there's, I wouldn't do this with tuna, but you can do flounder, red snapper, salmon. So they call this baby flounder or turbo. I got it in Gourmet Glatt. Now, everything, I live in the 5 Towns, everything I bought, the chicken is under Chabad Shechita, and everything I bought is checked and washed. So I want everyone to feel comfortable. I, for myself, always buy things checked and washed because I'm lazy. And I want to, Okay, just put on the gloves. Okay, so I like sheet pan dinners because it's really no fuss. I don't have pots and pans here. You see nothing. Just 2 baking sheets, cutting board, and a good knife. Okay, so let's start off with the fish. Another fish alternative is chicken. A nice pargia, I don't know. Chicken breast as well. You want something that will all cook at the same time. All right, so we're going to cut this up and we're going to just...
Does the protein cook at the same time as much, at equal time to the vegetables?
Yeah, on this it will, because it's also very fleshy. Salmon is a bit more porous. So we're just going to break this down. Oh, my ring underneath. Whoop. What? Yeah. So I'm going to I'm going to try to make as much as I can. That way everyone will get a slice. Now, there are great takeout stores. It's always easy to run out and buy stuff. It can be a bit expensive. We like the alternative. It's quick and easy, but it's also you're not in control of what you're putting in your food, and that's really important, especially with salt, right? As our parents age, you're not always allowed as much salt as we would want to put in for ourselves. So maybe I'll do 3 here. These are much bigger than what I thought. Wow, these are huge. I would maybe we could make even a 3rd one, a 3rd sheet.
How many people do you think this would feed?
Oh, this would feed a ton. So what I might actually do, let me try it like this. Okay, I'm going to see. I call this one of my non-cooking recipes, non-recipe recipe. Okay, I don't like that piece there. I'm going to pull that off. Okay.
That's when my kids know they're in for trouble when I say it's Monday night surprise for dinner.
I always say that, like, if you can get your kids to eat fish, it's so healthy for them. But you can sneak it a little bit. Like, I mean, you can always tell the difference, but just try to make it like pretty. Like sometimes the older kids will eat something that's like, you'll see I'm going to make some very colorful fish. And also like you can do, I'm going to show you some, like for the kids you can do one side, you can do like the lemon and the spices. And then on top, instead of putting say citrus and herbs, you can put on chips, like the colorful terra chips. So that's a fun alternative. Same dinner, one goes to grandparents, one goes to kids and grandkids. Something that's a little bit more fun and edgy. Okay, so we want to use clean ingredients and we want to use things that you have in your house. The best favorite ingredient for me is salt, but no table salt in general. I never ever use table salt. This is sea salt. This is my little traveling one for cooking demos. And then today we're going to use a lot of fresh herbs. I've got some lemon juice and lime juice. I think limes add a nice florally note to everything, so I really like to use that. And of course, we're going to use garlic. I love garlic. And we need 3 things for a sheet pan dinner. We need the protein, we need the starch, and we need the vegetable. So in general, that's how I run. That's how we run with our dinners in any case. So today our vegetable is going to be, our starch is a starchy vegetable, is butternut squash. So I cut these up and I bought this peeled and cubed because, yeah, it's lazy and it's cooking demo. We're trying to keep it simple.
But you know what? It's also a very important factor when you're cooking and you're so busy and you're cooking for children and parents and grandchildren because if it's peeled and cut, buy it the easy way.
Yeah, and sometimes at Costco it's even cheaper and it comes with a star K. So I love that. This is from Gourmet Glut, so I'm sure it was double the price than the Star K Costco one. But my mum, she's like, I'm eating butternut squash. Like I would tell her about not eating so many carbs. And I'm like, Mum, butternut squash is a carb. It's considered, really, it's a carb? Is it like a zucchini? I'm like, no, zucchinis are like free vegetables. They've got no.
She thought it was a vegetable. I'm like, no, it's both. But I like the fact that it has beta-carotene in it as well. It's orange.
No, you can do potatoes, but really sweet potatoes are a little bit better, especially when you want to give added nutrients to the kids and the grandparents. Okay, so I'm going to season this all up first. Divide it all up, and then we're going to season it. So we're going to do half and half. Okay, now we're going to do some of my favorite. I make this all the time. When I ask my daughter, what do you want for dinner? She'll say chicken and broccoli, and this is the kind of dinner that we make. Okay, so now I'm going to I bought a ton of different vegetables, and also colorful. I love color with food. Okay, so we're going to do a zucchini. So I want to try to make it. I'm going to cut it in half, actually. We're going to cook this up. We're going to eat this. Okay, we're going to put half on this side. We're going to put half on this side. It's already looking pretty, right? Stunning. Now, you can use different kinds of proteins as well. You can use tofu. Anyone here a vegan? Oh, sometimes I have vegans in my audience. I always have something prepared. Okay, so I have some notes here. So broccoli, you want to use broccoli. It's high in fiber. So hard to check broccoli, so we buy. I have long given up on, I love cauliflower and broccoli. We love it. We snack on it. If you put out roasted cauliflower and roasted broccoli before Shabbos on the counter. I don't know if it happens by you. It's gone. I'm like, oh my God, I turn around, it's like, there goes my side dishes. Sometimes I hide them, especially when I have guests and I really need them. This is very low. So I'm, okay. Okay. Red onion. Okay, so I'm going to peel this and clean it up. I wanted you to see that all that was washed, but I wanted you to see how I do this part. Very papery skin. I'm just going to like cut the end off a little bit, like give it a haircut here from the root tip. And what I want to do is I want to cut through, always flat side down. I want to keep all our fingers. Right through the root tip. See how it's like stayed in place? So I want to make like little wedges of onions. Red onions also got lots of vitamins from the redness.
Can you talk to us about cutting boards?
About what, sorry? You know how many times people have brought that up to me in the last few, like I worked on a Pesach program, doing cooking demos and running cooking competitions. Oh, but I think people are asking me plastic or wooden. So I love wooden cutting boards.
Doesn't the wooden like absorb the
I use, not this one, but most of my boards are bamboo. I like a good, and it lasts for ages. My cutting boards that I use for my cooking competitions are bamboo, and they are fantastic. Some of them are really, really old.
So it doesn't absorb the taste?
So what you should do also is, is have a cutting board, one for chicken and one for vegetables also. You don't want to mix that up, especially at the same cooking time. Okay, so we're going to, look how pretty this looks already, right? Okay, now we're going to just toss this around. Okay, I'm going to take my herbs. I'm going to make this all fresh for us with like fresh herbs. I'm not going to put chips on it for us. But that's just different ideas. All the crunchy onions, which is fun for the kids. This is called a rock chop.
Where the end of the knife always is attached to the board, and we just pass our knife through it, rocking it, pushing our veggies up.
There's nothing nicer than the smell of fresh herbs. The stems, you can pull out if you can, or just chop them up fine. But you can throw those stems in the chicken soup. Or in the freezer and then throw it in the chicken soup. You can have a little Ziploc bag full of stems. What's your question? This is not cilantro because how many of you hate cilantro? Yep, there's always a few. Yeah. I give you the non-cilantro version. If you like, you can add basil, you can add cilantro, anything green into this mix. Sorry? This is parsley and dill. Okay, now we're going to, what have I got here? I happen to love that this brand, Bee Leaves, because they look like a little bit nicer than the ones that you buy at the rest of the other supermarket brands. Okay, I'm going to put some here. And some here. This is taking longer than I normally do because I'm talking and cutting it up in front of you. But when I make this at home by myself, chick-chack, it's done. Sorry? You're right, you see I'm like this. It's good, it's good. Baruch Hashem. Okay, now I'm going to season up everything with some simple ingredients. A little salt. We're going very easy on the salt. I want to control that salt. Okay. Fresh garlic. Now, never garlic in the jar. We want to keep our food free from process, except frozen garlic. It's the best. It doesn't sit around in the jar, in the fridge, rotting, as I say. It's nice and frozen fresh. So I happen to really like the Geffen one because you don't have to push through that. You know, there's another brand you have to push through the plastic. I like this one, so it's already defrosted a little bit. We're just going to tap a few in here. It's better when they're frozen. Okay, and now we're going to put on another pair of gloves. This is really such a quick and easy dinner. I've actually got, you know the cookbook Best of Kosher? I have like a one-pan pepper, what do you call it? Pepper steak, lo mein. You put the whole thing in one pan. I love those like really quick and easy things to.
And that's on the stove or
in the oven. Okay, so I'm just tossing everything all together. Want to make sure it's. Look how pretty it's starting to look. I'm going to do some olive oil. Yeah, the fish is in there. The fish is in there. It's in the mixture. 100% extra virgin olive oil. There was about a tablespoon there. Rub it over the fish. Okay. We're not done with the fish yet because we want it to. Now you could spice this up any way you want with any of your favorite spices. Do also any vegetables that you like. So you could do peppers, mushrooms. What else? What do you guys like? What? Cauliflower, asparagus. I love asparagus. They have to be cut. See, everything's basically cut to the same size. So just keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that you use like maybe the mini potatoes or quarter them up. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's exactly 100% correct. I'm going to put some red onion here, make it a little bit more even. You could buy there are some very good sauces out there. Some of the Mikey sauces aren't as got so much sodium, or, you know, you can look for a low sodium sauce which you could pour over. You can do some soy sauce. You can do some balsamic vinegar. We're going to do some fresh lemon. Sorry, I'm very into changing the gloves. Okay. Other examples of starches, we've got parsnip, peas, corn. You can take a corn on the cob and slice it into half-inch rings, rounds. Acorn squash, delicata squash. Okay, now I'm going to take this lemon. Oh, no. Got gloves on the stickers there. Okay, I'm going to slice some lemon. Oh, this smells so good. Now, obviously, these foods can't be frozen in advance in terms of meal prep. But you can make this in the morning, put it in the fridge, and cook it up fresh later on. So this is the kind of things that you can do. Also, shopping lists are really important. Make note of what your family members, whether it's Bobby and Zadie or the grandkids, see what they're liking. Make yourself know, this recipe was a bomb. This was excellent. Double this for next time. I always try to be mindful of that. Even when I have Shabbos guests, I'll know who's eating what. This one ate this. I'll make that next time they come. I'm very into that. Okay. So I am going to take some of my fresh yummy herbs and I'm going to put it on the fish. You can do mint as well. Okay. Here. But we're not done yet. Now, this would be the point they would add on the fun stuff if you were doing the kids instead of the herbs. Now I take slices of lemon and lime and I put it on top. 1 lemon, 1 lime. You could do an orange as well. I'm just making this a little bit extra nice and pretty. And maybe I'll do the other one. Here we go. I'm scared to cut my hand with the gloves on. Just going to take a new one. Now, when you're storing your food and your leftovers, and we're going to talk about soups in a minute, how soups can really be an amazing meal, not just an appetizer, how you can make a soup that can feed the family with a little bit of bulk and content, especially as our parents age, they get less hungry. I don't know if you're finding that with elderly parents, that they can't eat so much. I remember my grandmother lived with my mum, and my grandmother was the ultimate foodie, and she could not eat as much as she used to. So they used to make her soups that were really bulky, and we're going to make one of these soups in a minute, bulky with protein. Okay, we've got this. What have I left off? Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more salt on top because we can have a bit more salt. And we're going to send this to bake. See, look how good this is, right? Looks nice? Beautiful. Right, very colorful. It's going to be delicious. We're going to be able to eat this afterwards. I'm going to, can we get this into the oven? Okay. You can do steak on a sheet pan dinner, like skirt steaks with vegetables around it also. Try to keep it simple as possible for yourselves and really just yummy with clean ingredients, and you've got a really great meal. How long does that bake for? So I'm going to give it half an hour because its fish is thick. Let me just put this at 350, and I also want everything else to cook at the same time. Does anyone have any questions? So now we're going to switch now to the soup. One thing, wherever you make and you prep ahead for the family, I always make one, freeze one in general because we're all busy. As much as I love to cook, I love to have stuff in my freezer. Like when my kids came for dinner tonight and I had to prepare for this and, my other jobs, I wanted to have a yummy dinner, so I had soups in the freezer. Soups in the freezer is amazing, but whatever you make and freeze, you must label and date. We're speaking about freezers before and how long things have been in there. please label and date. I can't tell you how many things I've probably thrown out because I did not date it I did not label it. And sometimes on Shabbos, we have some leftovers and we put it throw it in a Ziploc bag and just toss the leftovers in the fridge. I'm like, cleaning out for Pesach, I'm like, what roast was that? There's probably like a really good meal I could have made out of that. I don't know what it was, when it was from. I'm like, so it's really, maybe. There you go. Fantastic. Sometimes I take stickers, the white label stickers. I just write on that like Yemenite soup. I found the Yemenite soup from like 8 months ago from recipe testing. I'm like, we had it last night for dinner. 8 months is fine. 18 months, not so fine. I'm sure it's fine. My parents have got stuff in the freezer. We make a joke. I said to my mum, even as a teenager, I said, Mum, when was this from? Dad's bar mitzvah? Did Nana give this to you from leftovers from Dad's bar mitzvah? Like, some people really like to save things. Okay, I say 1 year. Fish, way less. Fish, 3 months. I'm telling you from personal experience, raw fish. Now, fish cooked like in tomato sauce, like say Moroccan salmon, that can last longer because it's got that red, heavy sauce to protect the fish. Fish is extremely porous. It does not last a long time, but you can make salmon patties that last a good 3 months. Rule of thumb for me, fish is 3 months and then chuck it out. Just does not hold up. It tastes terrible. Okay, raw chicken, a year. A year and a half. I'm sure my parents have got chicken in their freezer for 2 years. I have a client, no joke. I didn't cook last year for Pesach. Remember, I went to Australia for my dad, my parents. This year, I did cook for my parents. I did cook for my clients. I did not go to Australia. I sent my nephew instead with his wife and baby. They just landed now, coming back. They went to Sydney for 3 weeks to make Pesach with my parents. It was amazing, and it was so nice for my parents to have a great grandchild in the house because everyone else lives in America or Israel. So I said to my client, so you ready to place your order? She goes, I haven't finished last year's Pesach food. I said, honey, I didn't cook last year. It's from 2023. She's like, nobody died when I served it last week. So it must have been like something in a heavy sauce. Meatballs can really last. And stuffed cabbage, things in a heavy sauce. I personally do not do it. 1 year is my max. If I find something in the freezer after a year, I just can't. But really, there's a lot of things. I could give you a whole class on leftovers. In fact, I can actually touch on a lot of it now. Are you guys chicken soup people in general? Yes. In my house, since I'm a kid, Shabbos isn't Shabbos without chicken soup. You got to have chicken. It can be 120 degrees outside, and you got to have chicken soup. So there's so many things you can do with that leftover chicken. You can feed the grandkids, the babies. I save all the chicken for my little grandson. He's 15 months. He loves it. He inhales it. What was I going to say about the salad? Chicken Caesar salad, Asian chicken salad. You have a good recipe now in the cookbook that I gave you. There's a lot of great things you can do with a stir fry, a sandwich, chicken salad with just mayo and celery, so good. But I've got tonight this recipe. I actually wrote this for Mishpacha magazine. It was on the front page. You guys get Mishpacha? So it was on the front page of the Pesach Family First. So it was the front cover. I was very excited. It's a creamy chicken soup, sans the cream. Or what is the cream? Cauliflower. It's a really good starchy, but no starchy vegetable that you can use, and it's so creamy. So I couldn't make a whole soup in front of you and then serve it. So I made most of the soup, and now we're going to finish it together, and then we'll eat this yummy soup. I started by, and I'm really I realize you guys don't have the recipes, so we're going to get you all the recipes along with the notes that I prepared. So it's like sheet pan dinner, 3 categories: vegetable, starch, protein, and then just different seasonings and sauces that you can use, like your own sauces. A chimichurri sauce. You guys like chimichurri sauces? So good and so clean and so fresh. That was basically almost like a chimichurri sauce because it's garlic and it's without the jalapeno, this heat. It's garlic and olive oil and fresh herbs all zhuzhed up. This was just mixed up. But that's a really great sauce for chicken or fish. Okay, so this is a great recipe for parents and kids and babies. Okay, I started off with sauteing an onion. I'm pretty sure I bought tongs, yeah. Sauteing an onion, sauteing some celery, chunking up some broccoli, zucchini, adding in 2 bags of cauliflower, and I put chicken in a bag. I made a knot at the top, and when I mean a bag, you know what I mean by a bag. I don't usually use these except for this soup because I really want to separate out that chicken. So in terms of water or broth, I use water. Some of the bought broths, even if they're low sodium, they've got a lot of stuff in it we don't need. So unless you're making your own veggie stock, you can use water, and you'll see this is going to be delicious with water and salt. And everything always starts off with a gepregelte Zwiebeln. Everyone's like, you can speak Yiddish? I know 20 words, that's about it. I do kosher.com videos. You guys know kosher.com? So I do cooking videos. A lot of kids know it. And I'll throw in some Yiddish phrases, and they're like, oh, she can speak Yiddish in Australia. I'm like, everybody speaks Yiddish in Australia. Not everyone, but a lot. I'm grabbing out the other one. Now, in terms of water and or broth, what I recommend is always put the water about this much below the veggie line. Remember, veggies have got their own all-natural water, so we don't need their water. It will make the soup too watery. So go about 1 inch or 2 below the top of the water line, and then bring it to the boil, cover it, simmer it. And I think this takes about an hour and dinner is done. The soup is done.
That's just chicken broth?
This is onions, celery. Who asked the question? Onions, celery, zucchini, sauteed, bit of salt, cauliflower, and chicken. Clean, right? Especially now after Pesach, we want to eat a little cleaner, right? You can do this, you can put in whatever vegetables you like also. But I just like that it's going to be white and creamy looking. There's no carrots in this, but you can put in chunked carrots afterwards. At home I have what I call chicken scissors, and I just cut the tops. And here we have a meal here. Sometimes late at night when I've always got chicken soup in my fridge. I'll pull out some of the chicken and I warm up soup. We have like chicken soup all week. My husband laughs because he doesn't like chicken soup. Me and my girls will have, we have at Motzei Shabbos. You know, everyone goes out for pizza. Me and my girls, we sit and we have a bowl of chicken soup. We love the matzah balls, or we love dumplings and croutons and lokshen. Okay. We're just going to separate this out now, and this is really good stuff. This is so soft. Elderly parents sometimes need a little extra protein. Babies need it. And you can label this up. What? There's no neat way. No. I'm wearing gloves. I'm being neat. Sorry?
I made this at home. I got the recipe off mine, I guess.
Mine?
Yes, yeah, yours.
from kosher. Okay. I love this. I love this. This is like, I had some of this in the freezer for when a recipe developed, this, and I gave it to my family for dinner tonight. I pulled it out the freezer. So it was 5 thighs. I could eat this, like, I love it. And some people don't like the soup chicken. Who uses their soup chicken back in the soup when it's regular chicken soup? You do? We fight over the onion, the zucchinis. Is there an outlet over here? I'm going to have to...
So what I do with this
Yeah.
is chicken soup.
Yeah.
When you put it back in the soup, it kind of falls apart and you can't find it again.
Yeah.
So when I do that, I put it into a new bag.
Ah.
Put it back in the soup, and then I serve it. I serve everybody soup, and then I put that in a separate bowl, pass it around.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea. So I have a friend who serves everyone the lokshen and the soup, and then she puts all the vegetables in a big bowl. And I love it. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. A little pile. Now we have time for the zhuzha. I happen to love smooth soups. My husband, when he does eat soup, he likes it chunky. Okay, do you have amazing. Will that reach over here? Now, the thing, I have a fleishik one, a parva one, and a milchik one. Whatever you do with your soup, once you think you've zhuzhed it enough, zhuzh it again. Just give it that extra zhuzh. And then we're going to season it. Put the chicken back in, boil it up. Does anyone have questions or comments? Yeah. Salt. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Oh, ginger, yeah. I always say recipes are the author's suggestion of what she thinks you should do, and then you take it and you make it your own. I call it finding your inner chef. Okay, this is a really good machine. And this goes fast because the vegetables are nice and soft. It's almost done. But I want it to be very creamy, so we're really going to give it a good zhuzh. My husband's car smells like this. I took his car because he took my car so he could go back to the airport tonight. Take the kids, so the car smells of cauliflower soup. Now we're going to do the old extra spoons here. You're all going to have some soup soon. We're going to heat it up though. My little tasting spoon. I'm going to leave the salt here in case anybody wants to add in their own. We're going to put back in the chicken.
It was online. It must have been I was on your thing, on your feed, and I printed it out.
On kosher.com?
On Instagram, maybe?
I did.
I'm
Okay, yay. It's a new recipe. It's a new recipe. No, I leave it piecey. You could totally blend it, especially if you're feeding the babies. I have this zhuzha for a long time because I used to zhuzh all the chicken soup to make my own baby food. So sweet potatoes, carrots, all that. Sometimes when you have leftover vegetables from the chicken soup and most of the chicken soup is done, zhuzh all those leftover vegetables together. Also a very good puree for people who can't eat or swallow, babies or older. Okay, so we're going to heat this up and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, can we take that to the kitchen? Final recipe is a beautiful, delicious, colorful recipe. Again, I'm all about the color. It's actually a really good Rosh Hashanah recipe because it's made with leeks and pomegranates. And so it's got some of the simanim in it. But all jokes aside, I really wanted to do a grainy side dish because it's very good for the digestive system. And this is considered, farro is considered a superfood, an ancient grain. So this is what it looks like. I am not a rice person, but this is definitely something that I use a lot more than rice, and it really is very good for you. I'm making a farro recipe. You can throw farro into a soup just like barley. I'd say it's kind of like barley in terms of texture. You have to cook it up. But it cooks like rice. Has anyone ever worked with farro before? So, you like it? Yeah. So when I was writing my cookbook, so I don't know if I said this, I wrote 2 cookbooks. I wrote a Pesach cookbook, and I wrote, a year later, I wrote another cookbook, because everyone said, I'm never going to make Pesach. Either I go on a program or I go to my parents. So I'm like, okay, I'll have to write a book for the other 51 weeks a year. And then 3 years later, Corona rolled around. And then I sold, like a whole lot of books at once. Gedalia Zlotowitz from Art Scroll called me up and they said, well, usually the 3rd year a book comes out doesn't sell like hotcakes. Yours sold like hotcakes. I'm like, Baruch. I never want to say Baruch Hashem for Corona, no way. But Baruch Hashem for sales. Okay, I'm using here I don't have a bin here. I'm using the Czech leeks from Gourmet Glatt. Hold on one second, I just want to concentrate here. I have a knife in my hand. I have to make sure I don't get carried away talking. Lose a few fingers. Okay. All right, so if you don't have leeks or you don't want to check leeks, you know what the next best thing is? Onions. That also works very nicely. I'm all about the swap outs. Here I cooked up the farro at home.
Just with water?
Yeah, it cooks like, that's what I said before, it cooks exactly like rice. I don't know do people rinse their rice? You should rinse the farro. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of olive oil. I love this pan a lot. I don't even remember where I got it from. I think I even want to say Macy's. It's wide and deep, and I've used and abused it. Have a look at all the ingredients. It's leeks or onions, because, everything starts off with fried onion. Farro, fresh parsley, turmeric, very good for you. It really aids in digestion. It's anti-aging. You have to have a lot to have anti-aging work for you with turmeric, but people take turmeric shots. I did it once, I nearly died. It was like very strong. It was turmeric and ginger. I was like, but it adds beautiful color, and it is very good for you. And we've got our farro and now our leek. Getting up. Okay, I just want to dice it up. nice big long knife. See, it's like cutting right through that. And these are one of the things, farro is one of the things that you can just, it lasts in the fridge. It will last a good few days. You can serve it. Okay, the kids, are we seeing this again, leftovers? But it's, sometimes you can do different things with it, and it's good to have cooked farro in the fridge to throw into a salad or a soup, because it's the bulk, it's the fiber, and it's really important to have fiber. Okay. Now, I'm not a dietitian. I don't ever pretend to be one, but I do know a little bit about, what works with food. That is the best sound in cooking, right? The sizzle. This says Wednesday night dinner. Well, guess what it is? Wednesday night dinner. Well, that did not make it onto the knife. Let's just chop that. Okay, and if you can add, depending on what you're making, who you're feeding this to, a little pinch of salt. I think this is almost empty. You want to saute that down. Now, I cooked the farro like rice. 1 cup of, I boiled the water, so it was 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, pinch of salt. 20 minutes later, it was done. I have the recipe on the back. Follow the directions. So when I was doing my cookbook, I really needed to have something else in there. They said you have to have 1 rice recipe. So I have a friend of mine she's Syrian, and she made amazing, it's called black rice. So she made a black rice recipe. She helped me create that. And then I said, I'm going to do a different kind of grain, because I agreed that there needed to be another grain recipe in there. And I love the idea of the farro. Does anyone want to share anything, how they're managing with their parents, what they make, what's been successful, what hasn't been successful for them? Or what's amazing that you feed your children and grandchildren? Quiet crowd, God.
I once made farro with, I didn't grind, but I pulsed dried figs.
Oh.
It was delicious.
Oh, wow. I would love to try that.
In the oven. I pop it in the oven.
Okay. Now, inside my farro, inside my lit goes my farro. I always tell everyone, I don't know any recipes by heart. I know only 2. Potato kugel and challah. So this is the farro. This is what it looks like. Why? Yeah, it's a great starch. It's really what they say. I call it a very forgiving food. And you can add in anything you want, any vegetable you want, you can saute into this. And you know what's great? Any leftover meats that you had from Shabbos, here again with the leftovers, right? If you've meal prepped, sometimes if you take a whole bunch of chicken cutlets and you meal prep that, just with some garlic powder, onion powder, olive oil, sear it for a couple minutes on each side and make a glass container, those glass pirates with the lids. I love storing things in glass. I think it's much healthier than in metal. You can take some of the chicken and throw it into something like this, or into a soup, or into a sandwich. That way, you've always got something good and clean as a protein. Grain bowls are so in right now. If you tell your kids grain bowls are very trendy, I don't know if they'll believe you or not, but it's really true. What? Great question. A grain bowl is grain like this, and you bulk it up with, but they make it like deconstructed. So you have like the grain at the bottom, and then a pocket of sweet potato, a pocket of mushrooms, a pocket of chicken, a pocket of some other carb or veggie, and a crunch, quite often a crunch. Yeah, but with grain, and then you drizzle it with whatever sauce you like. And it's a great lunch. It's really a great lunch. If you were going on a picnic or you're an outing, and this doesn't spoil unless you're going to add in a chicken, but this, can really go for the long. Some turmeric. I'm just going to shitarein some turmeric. And now it's going to go this beautiful yellow color. We're almost done. How's that looking? Gorgeous, right? Parsley or cilantro. I'm sorry my pile is up here. Again, the rock chop. Too many stems there. And once again, I want to say you can do this with quinoa, you can do this with rice, you can do this with barley, you can throw in beans. That's another great, I meant to say that with a sheet pan dinner. You can do chickpeas as well, you can do beans. Look at that, starting to come together. It's a side dish. Or it could be a meal, depends on who asked the question. Oh, sorry, I just didn't know. I don't always know where the sound's coming from. It can be I say it's a side dish, but you could make it a meal by adding in chicken or fish. Okay, now we're going to make it all pretty. Now there is no pomegranates to be had in the 5 towns. This came from Marketplace. I called up Miriam like, Miriam, there's no pomegranates here. And it's much cheaper here than, it comes in a little snack. This is a great snack for kids. My kids love pomegranate. I'm going to make it, hold on. Guys, look at this. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Now we're going to taste it. I got to try it before you guys to make sure it's good. I know I went light on the salt, so I'm always nervous. She's such a bad cook. I'm like, but I'm trying to go light on the salt. But that's what the point of this class is. Mezonot, right? So good. I'm very excited. Very little salt went in this. We used the flavors of the parsley and the pomegranate and the turmeric, really brought this together really well. So, we're going to eat. You want to try this? I'm going to go check on the food in the kitchen, and then we'll talk more and have some questions. Okay, does anyone want to talk about food? I do have my, I always, when I was talking to Miriam, we were saying that I have a Pesach book, and I know that Chabad, minhag is to keep it very easy on Pesach, just salt, right? So you're not going to buy this on Pesach any case. So now's a perfect time to get the book because you can use it all year round. It even says Passover recipes you want to make all year. And it has action-packed, easy, delicious soups, clean, yummy. Look at that. Guacamole eggs. See, that's very Pesach. Gravlax. Braised chicken with apples and sweet potatoes. Eggplant parm. Shakshukas. Stuffed cabbage. Beautiful brisket recipes. So if anybody's interested,